Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Amphianne here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 3 of What If Izuku Was Majin. I just want to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So we begin. Throughout the years, Izuku, Mina, and Vami were usually around each other daily. Vami always stayed close to Izuku to keep an eye on him to make sure that nothing terrible happens. And Mina became best friends with Izuku, and is happy that he has people who care about him. Later, Vami realized that Mina wasn't a Majin, like her or Izuku, but she still let her join her and Izuku. Whenever Izuku turned the ripe age of 10, Vami got Inko to allow Izuku to train with her and let her study him too, as long as she doesn't do anything extreme. Vami had Izuku do martial arts training his body to adapt and use it in new and different forms, and control his Majin urges. Mina did learn about Izuku's true origin and asked to join their training. Vami asked Mina's father to allow her to join their movement, and he allowed her to join. Years went by for the three, and everything seemed to be expected. Well, except for problems that they don't know about. Vami didn't tell anyone about her origins. She didn't tell Inko, Mina, and her parents. Not even Izuku. She wants to tell them, but is afraid of what they may think of her, and worried that Inko could ask them to leave them alone. She doesn't want to risk Izuku losing himself, like how she lost herself. She hopes that anything from her past and present self won't cause any problems for anyone. It's the year 2000XXX, and Izuku Midoriya and Mina Ashido were middle school seniors. Although they went to different schools, they always met after school to hang out and train together. Every day is the same as the last, but today was the day that everything changes. Alright, all of you, listen up. It is time to start taking your future seriously. The teacher yelled out to his students. They all listened to what he had to say about their future. In my hands are the papers for your desired light course, but... All the students activated their quirks as he threw the papers in the air while Izuku was writing inside his notebook. Bakugo was not paying attention to his teacher. I know you all want to become heroes, the teacher chuckled. The students used their quirks and screamed out happily about becoming the best hero. The teacher chuckled as he told them to calm down and keep listening to him. As they calmed down, a laugh caught everyone's attention. They turned to see a spiky blonde boy with his feet on the desk and its head back. Oh, come on, Teach. Why are you comparing your best students with the rest of these extras? Bakugo questioned his teacher, putting his head up with a cocky smile. All the students, except Izuku, were yelling at Bakugo for calling them extras. They said that Bakugo was full of himself and cocky. Well, Bakugo said that he can kick all their asses if he felt like it, but called them a waste of time. Alright, Bakugo. You are thinking about applying to UA High? The teacher asked with no energy behind his voice. They all went silent from what the teacher said. UA High is one of the most competitive schools with the hardest acceptance rate. Bakugo chuckled as he jumped on top of his desk. Which is what I thought. I was the one who scored the highest on the mock test and the only one good enough to make it out of this school. Bakugo looked down at his hands and clenched them. I'll surpass All Might using my quirk alone. Nobody to help me. Become number 1 and be the richest man in the world. He kept laughing out loud as his teacher looked at the paper and saw another name. Well, you do have competition, Bakugo. The teacher intervenes in Bakugo's speech. Izuku is also applying to UA too. Bakugo froze in shock. All the students looked at Izuku, writing in his notebook and eating candy. The student talked about how both he and Bakugo were crazy to even think about applying to UA. Bakugo jumped from his desk and readied his hands to blast at Izuku. But Izuku noticed it and got up from his desk before Bakugo blew it away. Deku! Bakugo looked at Izuku in anger. Why the hell are you applying to UA too? I'll make you rethink your decision, you bubblegum bitch! They stared at each other for a bit before Bakugo ranted on about how he was superior to him in every aspect, and that UA wouldn't accept someone like him. Izuku kept a straight face throughout the whole rant while everyone in class just watched them. Gachan, Izuku said as he got into a fighting stance. Bakugo opened his palms as sparks flew out of his hand. Everyone was silent until...
All right, you two, that's enough.
The teacher yelled at the two as they both froze in place.
Bakugo, if you pull these stunts again, that will affect your chances to get into UA.
Bakugo looked at the teacher, then back at Izuku, grunting and sitting back in his seat. Izuku followed suit. After the events, the rest of the day went normal. Some were in a mess room. Vami was typing on a computer with a list of people she interviewed and helped with. She has already interviewed Izuku, and Mina is already training with them. A few others she had spoken with appeared to have a bird-like head, and the other yellow hair with a black lightning bolt. As Vami continued writing, she felt a sharpness in her stomach. She immediately got up from her seat, grabbed her special treats, and noticed that she didn't have any. She started to worry about the consequences of it. Vami grabbed her items and opened the door. She looked in the mirror and saw her Majin form smiling at her. Vami looked away from it and walked out of her apartment. Class ended, and the students made their way home. Izuku was finishing packing up his items as he heard his phone vibrate. He picked up the phone and saw a message from Mina. It read,
Hey, Zuzu, waiting outside. Better hurry.
He smiled at the text message and reached out to get his notebook, but another hand grabbed it first. Izuku looked up to see Bakugo and a few other classmates around him.
We haven't finished our conversation, Deku,
Bakugo stated as he slowly used his quirk on Izuku's notebook, burning the book and throwing it out the window. Izuku tried to grab it before it fell out the window, but didn't reach it in time. Bakugo grabbed onto Izuku's shoulder, using his quirk on him with a smile on his face. Izuku closed his eyes and thought back to his conversation with Mina.
Come on, Zuzu, you need to learn how to stand up for yourself,
Mina said as she punched the punching bag.
I get it, Mina,
Izuku said as he got up from his meditation.
I'm trying my best to stop him from bullying me. Are you sure?
Mina pouted at Izuku.
Because every time Aunt Vami takes us out to train, you always have a story about Bakugo. Why don't you let me go to Bakugo and teach him a lesson?
Mina punched the air.
Because I don't want him to go after you too.
Izuku stopped in his tracks.
Fine. I won't bother him,
Mina told as she threw a punch at Izuku. Izuku caught Mina's hand as she smiled at him.
But I want you to stand up for yourself. Don't become like Bakugo, but use his attitude against him.
Izuku smiled at Mina and promised her. Vami in the background smiled at them as they continued training. Back in reality, Izuku opened his eyes and grabbed Bakugo's hand. Bakugo was a bit surprised that Izuku held on to him. Then, Izuku's eyes changed from green to red, and answered him in a severe tone.
Kachan, can you please leave me alone?
Izuku said with a straight face.
Now you listen here, Deku. If you or Raccoon Eyes ever think about applying to UA, then...
Bakugo angrily stated, only for Izuku to intervene.
Then what, Kachan?
Izuku answered back.
Beat me up? You know that UA won't accept someone that hurts other students?
Bakugo pulled his hand off Izuku and cursed him out.
Piss off, you damn nerd!
Bakugo cried out. Then, he stormed out of the classroom and the others followed suit. Once they were gone, Izuku was sweating bullets and breathing heavily.
That was nerve-wracking,
Izuku thought to himself, as he finished packing his stuff and walked down to retrieve his notebook. He walked to the area where Bakugo threw his notebook, but it wasn't there. So he looked around, and nothing came up, until he heard a familiar voice behind him and smiled.
Sup, Zuzu?
Mina smiled as she held Izuku's notebook. They walked towards their training area as Izuku told Mina how he stood up to Bakugo, and Mina told him how she stopped a fight between 3 people. As they kept walking and talking, Izuku and Mina ignored where they were walking as they went through a tunnel. As they were near the end of the tunnel, Izuku felt energy underneath them and turned to see something terrifying. A slime villain appeared out of the sewer and latched himself onto Mina. Mina was starting to lose air as the villain was trying to use her as a disguise. She used her quirk to burn the villain enough so that she could at least breathe, but it didn't seem to hurt him. Izuku got into his fighting stance and lunged towards the villain, only for the attack to have zero effect on him. The villain just chuckled and stated that neither of them could harm him. Izuku aimed his antenna at the slime and charged it as pink electricity filled the air around them. The villain was sweating bullets, and Mina was ready for what would happen. Izuku was about to fire until he realized that if he fired the beam, then not only the villain would turn to candy, but also Mina and probably himself. Izuku stopped the shaft, and the villain laughed at him. A familiar voice shocked everyone as he held Izuku in place and was about to take over Mina's body entirely.
Fear not, young ones,
All Might said his catchphrase as he jumped out of the sewers.
for I am here.
This video is sponsored by Skillshare. With the services Skillshare provides, you can get access to many in-depth tutorial videos on basically anything you want to learn. Each class that they have is bound to help you with your creative endeavors. Do you want to learn how to make videos like this one? Do you want to learn how to write scripts or edit audio? Skillshare has you covered. And with our link, you can have a 14-day free trial. So what are you waiting for? Click the link now and get 14 days worth of classes free. Link in the description below. The villain, Izuku, and Mina were shocked to see All Might in all places. All Might pulled back his punch and yelled,
Texas Smash!
Then he released his punch as the villain disputed into little puddles around the tunnel. Izuku and Mina fell to the ground unconscious, and could only see the faint image of All Might. A few minutes later, Izuku and Mina felt something hitting them on the face. Then, they opened their eyes to All Might's looming over them.
Thought we lost you there.
All Might said with a smile on him. Izuku and Mina jumped back from him.
And you're both lively.
All Might!
What are you doing here? Izuku and Mina asked in shock.
I was chasing after a villain that escaped through the sewers. Good thing I got here in time.
All Might said as he held the bottle filled with the slime villain.
And thank you both. Because of what happened, I was able to capture the villain.
Izuku was frantically looking for his notebook and asked All Might to sign it for him, while Mina was in awe of the #1 hero in front of her. Finally, Izuku found his notebook, only to find All Might's signature already inside it. Izuku bowed crazily, saying thanks for it. All Might smiled and put a thumbs up to them.
Well, it's time for me to leave.
Izuku broke out his rant and focused on him. Izuku asked if he could stay to ask All Might a few questions. However, All Might stated that he must return the villain to the police.
All Might is truly amazing. Am I right, Zuzu?
Mina asked Izuku, but no response.
Zuzu?
She pouted and yelled for Izuku's name as Izuku flew away, clinging to All Might's leg. She sighed, walked towards the city, and kept texting Izuku.
Seriously, Zuzu, you better have a good reason whenever you come back.
While walking, she was thinking about asking All Might if he could become a hero.
Of course! Zuzu could become a hero. The best hero. He is strong, smart, has a multitude of quirks, and a goal.
She thought to herself as she stopped in the streets, looking down at her hand.
But am I good enough to become a hero myself?
Mina was stuck in thought until an explosion went off in the city. She saw smoke and ran towards it. Once she got there, Mina saw Vami and multiple people standing there looking at the chaos. With Vami, she walked through the streets, frantically looking all around for alleyways or villains to turn into special candy. Finally, she noticed some energy in an alleyway and walked down it. Multiple villains surrounded her and asked why a lady like herself was walking down this way. Vami didn't pay attention as her eyes darted around each villain, counting in her head to see if they were enough for her and Izuku. One of the villains grabbed her shoulder as Vami transformed into her Majin form. They moved away from her as she pointed towards them and charged a sweet beam at them. I'm sorry, Vami quietly said as she fired at them. The villains didn't know they had time to run away from it. The beams hit the villains and turned them into sweets. Vami picked up all the candy and placed them into 2 separate containers. As she finished packing up, an explosion went off in the city. Vami immediately ran towards the smoke and saw multiple people looking at the battle between the heroes and a slime villain. She looks to her side to see Mina running at her. With Izuku, he holds on tight to All Might's leg as All Might pushes him off. Izuku told him he would fall to his death, and All Might said that he had a good point. While they tried to land on a building, Izuku saw a flash of pink in an alleyway. Izuku knew that that was his Aunt Vami, but wondered why she was there. Finally, All Might landed on top of a building as Izuku catches his breath.
That was reckless of you, young man.
All Might couched with each sentence.
Be glad that we were able to land safely. Try to bang on the door. Someone will hear you eventually.
I'm sorry, but I need you to answer this. Throughout my life, everything about me was different. From birth to my quirks, even my personality.
Quirks?
All Might looked back at Izuku as he felt his body change.
My aunt told me that something vicious inside of me is trying to break outside of me. And I feel it every day inside of me, laughing and telling me what to do, but I work hard enough, so I don't have it inside me anymore. So, All Might, please answer me. Can someone as evil as me could ever be a hero?
Once Izuku finished his question, he saw a skeleton man surrounded by smoke. Izuku freaked out and called the man an imposter. The man sighed and explained himself, stating that he is All Might, or what's left of All Might. An intense battle between the forces of evil broke his body. Izuku kept a straight face as All Might looked back at Izuku.
So, you said you have something malicious inside of you.
Izuku nodded his head.
Well, I don't believe that you have anything evil about you, but you shouldn't have that stopping you from achieving your goal. You can become a hero.
Izuku smiled at All Might, thanked him for answering, and promised to keep his secret. Izuku opened the door and walked downstairs. All Might looked at himself and said it was time to return to the He stopped, patting his pockets, and noticed the bottle wasn't there. He looked out on the roof and saw smoke going from a street. He cursed himself and ran to the door and ran downstairs. Izuku noticed the smoke as he walked down the stairs and ran out of the building and towards the danger. Once he got there, he saw Vami and Mina watching the heroes battle. Izuku got their attention and asked what had happened. Multiple heroes are trying to stop the slime villain, save civilians in the streets, or prevent everything from falling on anyone. All of them saw the street filled with fire and rubble, while the villain laughed as if it was holding someone. They took a closer look at the villain and were shocked. Izuku immediately pushed everyone out of the way and ran to save Bakugo from the villain. All Might made it to see Izuku running towards the villain as the other heroes, Vami, Mina, and the rest were shocked to see the kid run towards the villain.
Keep yourself off of Kacchan!
Izuku said as he flung his backpack at the villain, hitting him in the eye. The villain recoiled in pain, giving Bakugo time to breathe. Izuku clawed the villain's skin to release Bakugo, but it seemed that it didn't work.
Stay away from me, Deku!
Bakugo slowly said. Izuku, with tears in his eyes, said that Bakugo's eyes were crying out for help. The villain created multiple tendrils from him and aimed them at Izuku. Izuku didn't have enough time to move and waited for them to hit him, but they didn't. Instead, the villain screamed as something hit him in the eye again. Izuku turns to see Mina with acid coming out of her hands.
Don't you dare hurt them!
Mina cried out. The villain screamed that he had enough of this, created 50 tendrils, and aimed throughout the street. Vami and everyone were terrified of this happening. Vami looked behind her to see All Might jumping into his buff form, grabbing Izuku, Mina, and Bakugo. With one single punch, the fire and slime monster were disputed until nothing was left. Rain began pouring from All Might's punch. The crowd cheered. Izuku and Mina were scolded for their stunt, while Bakugo was praised for his quirk. After everything was settled, Mina hugged bye at Izuku and Vami as they went their separate ways. Vami handed Izuku a container.
Here you go, Izuku.
Vami smiled.
This should be able to help you. And what you did today was the right thing to do.
Izuku looked up at her and smiled back. They walked until someone cried out, "Hey!" to them. They turned to see Bakugo staring at them.
I didn't need any of your guys' help, so I'm not gonna say thank you.
Bakugo stated as he stomped away. Vami and Izuku looked at each other in confusion.
Well, that's one way of saying thank you,
Vami said jokingly. So they kept walking home until someone got in the way.
I am here!
All Might announced, shocking Izuku and Vami. Vami asked how he got away from the media.
A hero like me can give anyone the slip, for I am All Might.
All Might transformed to a skeleton form. cursing himself out that somebody else knows. Vami intervened by saying she saw him change from his muscle form. All Might paused for a second, then continued to speak to Izuku.
Young man, what you and that girl did was truly heroic. And thank you for what you did.
Izuku held him down and replied in disappointment.
But I was the one who set the villain free and allowed him to hurt others.
Yes, but you and that girl were the only ones that didn't hesitate to go into danger and save your friend.
All Might said as he pointed at Izuku.
I don't believe someone with something evil inside of him wouldn't just let someone get hurt.
Vami sternly looked at Izuku, who just looked away in fear. She was about to question Izuku if he revealed anything about them, but All Might intervened.
You know, I've been looking for a successor, and I believe that you are the one that can inherit my power.
Izuku looked at All Might in confusion while Vami was in awe. Did he say inherit his quirk? Vami thought to herself while Izuku spewed paragraphs about how it's impossible to inherit an abnormality like All Might. He looked at the two in fear and couched to grab both their attention. All Might walked towards Izuku, holding out his hand.
So, young man, what do you say? Will you become my successor?
Thank you all for indulging yourself in all this information thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, there are a few more things I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, we the Celestials have got you covered. Our We the Celestials My Hero Academia and Naruto What If channels retell the stories of their namesake anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details can be found in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, then I'd like to extend you an invitation to join the team. The only caveat being that we only accept members from 16 years and up to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interest by joining the recruitment Discord using the link below. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video, so thank you all for watching and have a great day.